So Dan, let me first just get your take on this news here. We've got revised guidance, big shareholder repurchase update. Stock is ripping higher. What did you make of the news?
I mean, look, they've been through an F5 tornado. I mean, if you look at Barra and GM, and this finally, it's ripping the Band-Aid off. I mean, it's given some guidance. The buyback, I think, is important. And then when it comes to Cruise and some of, even from the electric vehicle perspective, maybe pulling back some of those goals. Look, the reality is UAW, that's sort of been albatross. That's done. This is almost what I putting the train back on the tracks.
Well, Dan hates Julie, by the way. You know, putting the train back on the tracks, but you can't make customers want to buy the cars at the end of the day, particularly the EVs. Or can you? Is the issue that people don't want them, or is the issue that GM is not making the right EVs?
Well, Julie, the issue is really 2024 was going to be the year. I mean, that was the inflection point year that Mary and the team talked about for years. Now, obviously, UAW got in the middle of that. It's still TBD. I mean, you got to really see a year from now what the demand looks like. I believe, look, I mean, I've been to Detroit many times. I've seen what they're coming out with. I believe the next 12 to 18 months, like they have the vehicles, they have the distribution. It's now about conversion. That's really going to be the key for GM looking ahead, you know, especially ironically, you know, with you got Cybertruck tomorrow, where it just shows Tesla, they're just doubling down when it comes to EVs.
But you know, what's interesting, Dan, I just want your broader take on the EV market. I look at that market right now, and it looks like consumer demand is wavering, Dan. I mean, I see companies, they're cutting prices, companies putting off billions in EV-related investments. I mean, are you still confident, not just for GM, but when you look at the EV market, are you still confident that it's going to grow the way we would expect, that it's still a smart opportunity for investors?
Yeah, look, John, I think if you look like China, okay, could that be the blueprint? Europe, US? Maybe it's more modest, right, in terms of what the growth rate looks like. But even if you look at 3%, okay, let's say it doesn't go to 40% penetration. Let's say it goes to 20% in the next 6-7 years. That's a few trillion of ultimately when you look at the actual opportunity. So that's significant. That's what the automakers are going after. That's what Tesla's going after, Rivian, and of course the 313 area code. So we continue to be very bullish on electric vehicles in terms of what's happening globally. I think it's just a start.
Dan, you know we want to ask you about the Cybertruck, but I got one more question on GM. And we just showed on the screen, you still have an outperform on the stock, but you don't sound like you have a lot of conviction in your voice when we talk to you about it, even if you've got that outperform.
Look, my view is GM's a stock where there's no reason from a valuation and they're successful. It goes back to what I've used the mid-40s. So from a valuation, just given the opportunity, but being a GM bull, it's like being a Giants fan, right? It's been a very difficult path the last year.
Well said, Dan. I got to get you out of here on this. The Cybertruck, tomorrow Tesla has its long-awaited delivery event for the Cybertruck. Dan, what do you expect to hear about pricing, and why do you think, Dan, Tesla investors should be excited about this vehicle? Because we know production is not going to be easy.
Yeah, look, this is a historical day for Musk and Tesla. 4 years in the making. I think 60 to 80K, that's sort of the sweet spot for prices, probably closer to 60, 65K. But it's important because it's a category builder. And I think at scale, this could get to 250,000 units. You got 2 million reservations based on estimates. Even if it's 40% conversion, that's another 800,000. They're going after share from Ford, from GM, and others. But look, this is complex to produce. But Musk, Tesla have been there before. I think it's just going to be another trophy case moment in terms of what we see in terms of the unveil of Cybertruck.
Dan, supposedly some people are getting deliveries of these things tomorrow. Who is buying this Cybertruck? I cannot find. Now listen, I don't know everybody, right? I put out some calls on social media. I asked my good friend Dan Ives, who covers this company, do you know anyone, like a real human, who is buying one of these things, who's actually getting one of these things? I haven't been able to find them. I mean, there's not that many people overall, but like, you know, like what's the audience? Who's buying them?
Well, it's on the list, right? So in other words, who's going to be there tomorrow in Austin? Like, you have a select list that's already, you know, been picked. They're clearly not going to talk. they'll talk once they have the vehicle. But I think this is something that we're all going to see tomorrow in terms of those vehicles get delivered. And I think this is going to be an important month to see more of those Cybertrucks on the line. That's why, Julie, I could look at a year from now. I mean, we could see Julie, taking that Cybertruck, driving in around New York City.
She's not sold, Dan. I'm telling you, it's a tough sell. Tough sell. But
I don't know. But I am curious, like, what's the profile of, like, is it somebody who was driving a Humvee before? Is it somebody who's driving a Ford F-150 who's going to buy this instead? Like, who is this person?
I think it's more halo effect, a core Tesla customer that has either an X, that's had a 3, a Y, and now looking to use that as more of a sport utility pickup.
Mm-hmm. You know what, Dan? I think we do an Ives Lipton halvesies here. I'll split it with you. We're both in the tri-state area. We can share it.
We'll do it. We could share. You could have it during the week, I could have it on the weekend.
That makes sense.
It's done.
It's a deal. Done. Dan Ives, great seeing you as always.
Great seeing you. Thanks.